Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to 10-Minute Review. This is Freya. I'm Jason, and we're bringing you today's video. Yes, you are Freya, and we're bringing you today's video. Me and my fuzzy little So, yes, you. So for today's video, yes, you. We want to bring you a book and an author we haven't talked about yet. And I'm just going to talk about book 1 of the series because I do intend to read the entire series, but I want to talk about Elemental Empire by Peter North. As always, I'm going to talk about 4 things. I'm going to talk about the world, the characters, the plot, and the overall writing style. So the world is interesting because it starts in one world, goes to the other world. Primarily, it's your usual swords and sorcery, fantasy type setting. At least that's the impression you get because there are, dryads and nymphs and tons of magic and magical priestesses and gods and all this stuff. But along with that, there's an empire. There's an evil, bad, like almost like the evil god kind of character. But beyond that, you don't get too much of an introduction into the world because this one just occurs within one small section of it. Basically, it occurs within the woods. It occurs within the woods and within a temple, basically. But it starts out on Earth, which leads into the character. So the main character is Logan Greenwood. He's a self-made millionaire. He's a businessman. Always feels like a little bit of an outcast. Comes from in a way, the gutters. Kind of how they kind of put it. The mother lives in a trailer park. She's an alcoholic, and that's what really kicks off the book. He's going to visit his mother, and he basically arrives just as she dies. She passes away. And as she passes away, the usual trope, magical light, whatever, hits, and he is, boom, poof, gone to another world. Wakes up in the woods, has fractured memory. Doesn't remember too much of himself, remembers his name, and basically gets hints of the world he came from and his past. But instead, he mostly just needs to try and survive. And that leads into the plot. Now, it kind of opens up with him rescuing a dryad, although in this case, the dryad more comes across as closer to a druid, almost like a nature witch kind of thing. She has her magical shillelagh, her magical staff that disguises itself as a stick. Somehow he is able to see it and recognize it and bring it to her. He does manage to rescue her. He does this with the help of magical fireflies that give him directions in a way, and a sword that these fireflies lead him to that's just hidden in stone. Basically, he finds the sword in the lake, kind of thing. He pulls out of a stump instead of pulling out of a sword, instead of pulling out of a stone, but he finds this magical sword. And so then he starts traveling with the dryad because she has an important message to deliver to the priestess. And as he's doing this is how he starts learning about the world. So he has fallen into this magical world that has this empire and this emperor. Now this emperor is all powerful, and he's the one that holds the rest of the evil back. He holds the dark, powerful, magical god, evil god away. His power is so strong he holds it back. But he's kind of overdue for handing off that power. Now his son had disappeared a long time ago, and within the empire there are multiple like noble houses, in a way, families. And they all compete with each other. Most of them are elves, elf adjacent. And they're all competing with each other for the next emperor position, basically, because the emperor is actually chosen by the priestesses. There are 6 or 7 priestesses. They have great power. They are virgin priestesses. They are supposed to bind themselves to the next emperor. And if no emperor is put forth by the current emperor, then they will have to pick a new one, and they will pick it from the noble houses, and then they will bind with this emperor. And in the act of binding with each one of the priestesses, the new emperor will gain power, and of course the priestesses will as well. So by binding with all of the priestesses, as they all represent different elements, nature, fire, mind, stuff like that, that is how the emperor becomes so powerful. And that is the general the world that Logan is learning about. Now, as he's holding these conversations, he's also learning, he's also starting to remember a little bit more about himself, and there are hints that, like for instance, his name is almost identical to the Lost Emperor's son. Now, the Lost Emperor has been promising the return of his son for so long that the other noble families no longer believe in him and no longer believe him. So even were the son to return, it's very unlikely that he's going to be able to just step right into this role as the new emperor. So Logan discovers he has quite a few different abilities as he's going along, as he meets with the priestess, he meets with her advisor, and he discovers, at first he doesn't realize it's a unique ability, but he discovers that he can see magic. He can see magic, and he can also see the, I don't want to say the flavor, more of the well, I guess the flavor is the right word, the element of it. He can see the element of it based on its color. And through it, he's able to identify a major betrayal, I suppose would be a great way to put it, or almost like a coup in a way. Less of a betrayal, more of a coup. And through his fighting off this coup and then eventually trying to gain allies, he eventually meets a shade of his mother who tells him that, yeah, as a matter of fact, yes, as has been hinted, is very obvious, it's definitely not a twist in any way, shape, or form. He is, of course, the lost and missing son, and he needs to bind with the priestesses and gain their abilities, but he needs to convince them to bind with him. They're not just going to fall backwards and open wide for him. He actually needs to convince them of this. Now, of course, his sword helps because it happens to be an ancient family weapon that he should be able to use unless he is that son. And he also discovers through this that the power that he is supposed to have at the moment is not the power that he does have. He is able to do things that he should not be able to do. So he is already starting out almost the overpowered main character, which is kind of cool. That's what most of us read this kind of stuff for. The overpowered main character is a trope, but it's a trope because we love that stuff. Otherwise, the writing style. Peter North's writing style, it's interesting. I can't call it, the character's not necessarily snarky. The character is almost more stumbling, bumbling than snarky or anything along those lines. It's hard to describe. He writes the dialogue well. He builds his world great. But the character, again, just kind of comes across as sort of stumbling, bumbling, tripping over his own 2 feet to figure out what's going on. And again, Deus Ex Machina, his powers just always appear that just so happen to be just the right thing that he shouldn't have, but is able to do it. Which again, we read this stuff for the overpowered main characters, so nothing really wrong with that. Just the writing style is, you don't laugh out loud while you're reading it. You don't, you're not cursing at the main character while you're reading it either. In some ways, he almost writes in a very, very serious manner in a way, like he's writing a great thriller or something, when it's just a typical fantasy book, but it's very, very engaging. Very, very engaging. It's definitely, it is a series, so obviously he wrote it very, very well. So you guys got to check it out. Elemental Empire by Peter North. 4-book series at the moment, and I will be reading the rest of the books shortly. I'm working through Malazan right now. As always, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. Guys, we've got a ton of videos coming out for you guys, or we try to. Been a little distracted lately. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll catch you next time. Bye now.